Ethan, you've been adequate. Tori didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. She was swiping through something on Bloomberg, probably checking the overnight futures while she fired me. Classic Tori. Efficient to the point of cruelty. I stood there, hands in my pockets, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. Instead, she tilted her head toward the kid sitting next to her. Derek here is going to be taking over your responsibilities. Effective immediately. Derek Pierce, 26. Yale, a jawline that probably had its own Instagram following. He leaned back in my chair, the one I'd picked out 3 years ago, and smiled like he'd just been handed the keys to the city. Appreciate you holding down the fort. Man, he said, offering a hand he knew I wouldn't shake. I kept my eyes on Tori. Adequate? That's the best you can do? After 3 years of cleaning up your messes. I'm adequate? That's when she laughed. Not a chuckle, a full-throated, head-back laugh that echoed off the glass walls of the conference room. The sound of it made a couple of the junior analysts flinch. They laughed too, a beat later, because that's what you do when the queen laughs. Even Derek joined in, though his was shaky around the edges, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to find me funny yet. Oh, please, Tori said, finally setting her phone down. Her eyes were ice blue, the same shade they turned right before she gutted a deal. Don't act like you're irreplaceable. Derek's already streamlined the Hudson Yards projections. He actually understands modern portfolio theory, not just the 2008 playbook you're stuck in. Derek puffed up at that. Yeah, man. I mean, no offense, but some of those models you were running, they were practically DOS era. I felt my jaw tighten. DOS era, cute. You know what else is cute? That you think Tori is going to let you near a real decision. Last week, you couldn't tell a cap rate from a coupon payment. Tori waved a hand. Dismissive. Enough. Ethan, get your things. Derek, I want those revised numbers on my desk by noon. And lose the man thing. It's unprofessional. Derek nodded. All seriousness now, like he'd just been knighted. I stood there for a second longer, just watching them. Tori was already back on her phone, and Derek was opening his laptop, his fingers hovering over the keys like he was about to compose a symphony instead of a spreadsheet. You know what's funny? I said, my voice low enough that only they could hear. You used to say we were the ones who ate the ones who failed. Guess you forgot. I'm the one who taught you how to chew. Tori didn't look up. Security's outside if you need help finding the elevator. I walked out without another word. The office went quiet as I passed through the bullpen. No one met my eye. Not Elena. Not even Marcus, who was leaning against the espresso machine, looking like he'd already seen this coming. I grabbed my go bag from under my desk. I never kept much here, and headed for the stairwell. Elevator was too slow. Stairs gave me time to think. By the time I hit the lobby, my phone was already buzzing. Marcus. Heard, he said. No preamble. You good? I'm better than good, I said, pushing through the revolving door onto Park Avenue. The air was sharp, late September biting at my neck. She just handed me the leverage. Maku sight. I could picture him rubbing his temples, the way he always did when I went into kill mode. Ethan, you sure you want this fight? Langford Properties isn't just a company. It's her identity. She'll burn the whole block down before she lets you walk away with a piece. I don't want a piece, I said, hailing a cab. I want the whole damn building, and I want her to watch me sign the papers. You sound like her when you talk like that. Good. Then she'll know exactly who's coming for her. I told the cabbie to take me to the financial district. Marcus was waiting at our usual spot, a hole-in-the-wall diner on Nassau Street that served coffee strong enough to strip paint. He was already halfway through a stack of documents, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Talk to me, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. He pushed a folder toward me. Hudson Yards Phase 3. She's leveraged to the hilt. Borrowed from everyone, J.P. Morgan, Citadel, even some private debt fund out of Jersey. If those units don't pre-lease by Thanksgiving, she's staring down a margin call that'll make 2008 look like a dress rehearsal. I flipped through the pages. Numbers danced, but I saw the pattern immediately. She'd overpaid for the land, underestimated the construction costs, and now she was trying to plug the holes with high-interest bridge loans. Amateur hour. And Derek's the one running these models? Marcus snorted. Kid couldn't model a lemonade stand. She's got Elena doing the real work, but Derek's taking the credit. Elena's pissed. By the way, called me last night asking if we had an opening. We do now. I said, get her on board. Quietly. I want her feeding us everything. Project timelines. Cash flow projections. The works. You're playing dirty. I'm playing to win. There's a difference. Marcus shook his head but pulled out his phone and sent the text. While he was typing, I leaned back and thought about Tori. About the first time we met. Back in '09, during the worst of the crash. She was working for a failing brokerage in Midtown, and I was running distressed debt for a hedge fund in Stamford. We ended up at the same bar, both of us drowning in cheap whiskey and worse prospects. You know why most people fail? She'd asked, her eyes glittery with alcohol and ambition. They're afraid to take the last shot. I'm not. I'd laughed. I'm not either. But I'm smart enough to wait until the other guy's gun is empty. We'd shaken on it, right there at the bar. Partners, lovers, predators. For a while. It worked. We bought foreclosed properties for pennies on the dollar, flipped them, rode to recovery all the way to the top. But somewhere along the line, Tori decided she didn't need me anymore, decided that having a partner meant sharing the spotlight, and she wanted it all for herself. Well, she was about to learn that in this town, you don't get to fire the guy who knows where all the bodies are buried. My phone buzzed again. Elena, need to talk. Alone, 8 p.m., the usual place. I showed the message to Marcus. He raised an eyebrow. She's moving fast. She's scared. I said, Tori's been riding her hard, and Derek's been taking credit for her work. Elena's got a spine. She won't put up with that for long. Just watch your back. If Tori finds out, she won't. Not until it's too late. I spent the afternoon at my apartment, digging through old files. There was a reason I kept backups of everything. Every email, every contract, every whispered conversation Tori and I ever had. Paranoia. She called it. I called it insurance. By 7:30, I was at the bar. Elena arrived 10 minutes later, slipping into the seat next to me like she didn't want to be seen. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, but her posture was straight. Professional, always professional. Thanks for meeting me, she said quietly. You sounded urgent. She ordered a vodka soda. No lime. Derek's a disaster. He doesn't understand the first thing about the Hudson Yards budget, and Tori's letting him run the numbers anyway. Yesterday, he tried to reallocate funds from the contingency reserve to cover a shortfall in marketing. I had to talk him out of it before he blew the entire Q4 forecast. And Tori? She's distracted, spending half her day on the phone with lenders, the other half yelling at Derek. She's scared. Ethan, I can hear in her voice. I sip my drink. She should be. Tell me about the pension fund. Elena stiffened. How do you? I have sources. Just tell me. She glanced around, then leaned in. 2 months ago, she moved $12 million from the employee pension fund into a speculative land deal in Queens. It's not on the books. If the auditors find out, they won't. Not unless someone tells them. Her eyes met mine. You're going to take her down. I'm going to own the building. What happens to her after that is up to her. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Once. I'll get you the files. All of them. But I want immunity. In writing. Done. Marcus will draft it tonight. She finished her drink and stood. One more thing. Derek's not just incompetent. He's greedy. Tori promised him a VP title if he can fix the Hudson Yards mess. He's desperate enough to do something stupid. Good. I said, stupid people make mistakes. And I'm very good at capitalizing on mistakes. After she left, I sat there for a while, staring at my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. The guy looking back at me didn't look angry, didn't look happy, either, just focused, cold. Ready? I called Julian Ortega next. He answered on the second ring, his voice gravelly from too many cigars and not enough sleep. Ethan, what time is it? Time to talk business. How's the union feeling about Langford Properties? Julian chuckled. You heard about the safety inspection delay on the Hudson Yard site? That was me. Tory's been cutting corners on labor costs. My guys aren't happy. Make them unhappier. I need a work stoppage. Indefinite. That'll cost you. Name your price. 10% of whatever you squeeze out of her. 5, 7, and a handshake. I don't want this traced back to me. Deal. I hung up and called Marcus. We're moving tomorrow. Get the financing in place. You sure? If we pull the trigger now, there's no going back. There was no going back the minute she laughed at me. The next morning, I was up at 5. Coffee, shower, suit. I stood by the window, watching the city wake up. Somewhere across town, Tory was probably still in bed, Derek snoring next to her. She'd wake up, check her phone, and see the news. And then she'd realize that the building she thought she owned, it had a new name on the deed. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Deal closed. The building's yours. I looked at the glass tower in the distance, the one that had been hers for so long. Now it was mine. Every floor, every office, every secret buried in the foundation. I poured myself another cup of coffee and smiled. Morning. Tory. I whispered. Then I dialed Elena. Send the files. And tell Derek I said hello. The line went dead. Outside, the sun was rising over Manhattan, painting the skyline gold. Somewhere, a siren wailed. Somewhere else, a deal was dying. Mine was just beginning. Marcus called back before I'd finished the coffee. 7% to Ortega's war chest hits your offshore account today. But I'm not wiring the acquisition funds until I see Elena's files. If that pension diversion is real, we're not just talking hostile takeover. Ethan, we're talking RICO. Since when do you care about the law? I asked, watching a black town car slide to the curb outside my building. Derek's car. Same driver. Different passenger. Since you dragged me into a potential federal indictment, Marcus said dryly, check your secure drive. Elena just uploaded. And Ethan? The Hudson Yards numbers are worse than she let on. Derek's been cooking the books to hide cost overruns. Tory's about to miss a bond payment in 36 hours. 36 hours. That explained the tension in Elena's voice. Tory wasn't just scared. She was cornered, and cornered animals bit. Hold the wire transfer. I said, let the bond payment bounce. I want her sweating through her Valentino blazer tomorrow morning. Risky. If the lenders call the full note, they won't. Not before they see if Derek's new projections save the day. Give them just enough hope to keep them from pulling the trigger until I'm ready. I ended the call as Elena's files finished downloading. The first document was an internal memo from Tory to Derek, dated 2 weeks ago. Do not discuss the Queen's land acquisition with Ethan. He'll try to block it. Move the remaining $4 million from the operational reserve to close the gap. We'll replenish after the pre-sales launch. Operational reserve. That was the petty cash for payroll and vendor invoices. She was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And Derek was too busy picking out his new office furniture to notice the building was on fire. My phone buzzed again. Julian, Ortega here. My guys are walking off the Hudson Yard site at noon. Safety violations. I've got 3 inspectors willing to swear the scaffolding's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Make it public. I said, I want the Post running a photo of a hard hat with a crack in it by the 6 o'clock news. You're a cold son of a bitch. Cold. I learned from the best. Keep the picket line peaceful but visible. No violence. We're not giving Tory an excuse to sue for injunction. Just inconvenience. Julian laughed. Inconvenience. Yeah, we'll start with the concrete trucks. See how far she gets without pour-ready mix. Concrete, the lifeblood of a development project. Without it, everything stopped. Tory's bondholders would see the halt as a sign of operational failure. Not a labor dispute. Exactly what I needed. I spent the next hour dissecting Elena's spreadsheets. Derek hadn't just cooked the books. He'd nuked them. He projected a 95% pre-lease rate based on preliminary interest from 3 tech firms, none of which had signed LOIs. He'd assumed construction would finish 3 months ahead of schedule, despite the site being behind due to weather delays Tory had forced him to ignore, and he'd budgeted for value engineering that didn't exist, cutting corners on materials that would have triggered building code violations if inspected. The kid wasn't just incompetent, he was a liability, and Tory had chosen him over me because he was too dumb to question her. My intercom buzzed. "Mr. Cole, Elena Wu is here. She says it's urgent. Send her up." Elena walked in looking like she'd been awake for 3 days, which, considering Tory's schedule, she probably had. She dropped a flash drive on my desk. Everything: bank statements, deleted emails, Derek's draft resignation letter. He wrote it last night after Tory screamed at him for missing the bond payment deadline by 4 hours. Why'd he stay? She promised him a corner office and a performance bonus tied to the Hudson Yards completion. He thinks if he pulls this off, he's a hero. Elena paused. He also thinks you're the one who got him the job. I raised an eyebrow. Me? Tory told him you recommended him as your protege. Said you thought he had fresh eyes for the market. She needed him to believe you weren't a threat. So he'd stop looking over his shoulder. Clever. Tory had weaponized Derek's ego against him, and against me, by extension. If Derek succeeded, Tory took the credit. If he failed, she'd blame me for recommending him. Win-win for her. Where's Derek now? I asked. Try to convince a lender in Midtown to extend the bond payment deadline. He's using the concrete delay as an excuse. Doesn't realize Julian's crew blocked the delivery routes. I smiled. Let him sweat. Did you get the pension fund records? Elena nodded. Shell companies in the Caymans. Tory moved the $12 million into a land grab in Astoria. The seller's a LLC registered to Derek's cousin. Kickback scheme. Nice. So when the feds trace the money, it leads to Derek's family. Tory covers her tracks. Derek takes the fall, unless we leak it first. Elena said, I've got a contact at the Times. Real estate desk. She's been looking for a story on pension fraud since the MTA scandal. Not yet. I said, let Tory think she's still in control. We leak it the day after I own the building. Maximize the damage. Elena hesitated. You know she'll come after you. Once she realizes, she won't realize anything until it's too late. By the time she connects the dots, the SEC will be raiding her office. The union will be picketing her home. And Derek will be lawyering up in a holding cell. Elena stood. Just don't forget who helped you. I want the immunity in writing before the markets open tomorrow. Marcus is drafting it now. You'll have it by midnight. After she left, I called Marcus again. Change of plans. We're accelerating the acquisition. Close the deal tonight. Tonight? The lenders won't process the wire until. Use the emergency line of credit from Chase. I'll collateralize my stake in Coal Capital. Get the deed recorded before Tory's morning coffee. You're cutting it close. If the bond payment bounces, and the lenders call a note before we close, they won't. Derek's still in that meeting, lying through his teeth. Buy us 4 hours. That's all I need. I hung up and opened my laptop. Time to send a little message. I drafted an email to Derek's work address, the one Tory had given him, the one he checked every 5 minutes for validation. Subject, the fort. Derek, appreciate you holding down the fort, but you might want to check the foundation. It's looking a little cracked. P.S. Tory's laughing again. Wonder what she's thinking this time? I didn't sign it. He'd know, and the doubt would start gnawing at him, just as he was trying to convince a room full of skeptical lenders that Hudson Yards was still a sure thing. By noon, Julian's safety inspection was trending on Twitter. #Langford collapse. The photos were perfect. Cracked helmets, crooked scaffolding, a crane operator refusing to work until conditions improved. The Post ran with it. Langford's House of Cards. Safety lapses threaten billion-dollar project. Tory's response was predictable. A press release claiming disgruntled former employees were sabotaging the site. She named me specifically as the architect of this smear campaign. Bold move. Now every lender, every investor, every regulator would be looking at her. Not me. I spent the afternoon in my home office, fielding calls from Marcus, Julian, and Elena. The rhythm was familiar, the same dance I'd done 100 times during the crash. Identify the weakness, apply pressure, wait for the break. At 5:47 p.m., Marcus called. Deeds recorded. The building's yours. Effective 6 a.m. tomorrow. Send the notification to Tori's legal team. I want her waking up to a certified letter and a locksmith changing the front door codes. Done. But Ethan, Elena's contact at the Times is asking about the pension fund. If we don't leak it, someone else will. Give Elena the green light. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., right after Tori reads the deed transfer. You're enjoying this. I'm correcting a mistake. There's a difference. I ended the call and poured a drink. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked window. Somewhere, Tori was screaming at Derek. Somewhere else, Elena was finalizing her immunity deal. And Derek, he was probably Googling how to resign without going to jail. I raised my glass to the darkness. To the replacement, I murmured, "Hope you like unemployment." The clock ticked toward midnight. One more call to make. I dialed a number I hadn't used in years. A private line at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. A woman answered, crisp and professional. SDNY, Fraud Division. Who's calling? Tell Assistant U.S. Attorney Ramirez that Ethan Cole has a gift for her. Pension fraud, kickbacks, and a sitting duck named Derek Pierce. The files hit her inbox at 7:01 a.m. I hung up before she could respond. The pieces were in place. The trap was set. And Tori? She'd wake up tomorrow morning to find out that the building she'd stolen from me was now the first domino in her own collapse. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. I answered. Ethan. Tori's voice. Raw and shaking. She'd found the email. What the hell is this? Morning comes early. Tori, I said softly. Better get some sleep. You're going to need it. I ended the call and turned off the ringer. The last sound I heard before bed was the distant wail of a siren, heading east toward Midtown. Toward her. Tomorrow, the building would be mine. And Tori? She'd finally learned what it felt like to be adequate. The text came through at 5:47 a.m. Not from Tori. From Marcus. Recording complete. Deed filed. She's locked out. I didn't reply. I waited. At 6:03, my building security feed pinged. Tori's town car idling at the curb. Derek in the passenger seat, hunched over his phone. Tori out front, jabbing the keypad by the main entrance. Again, the red light stayed red. My phone rang. Her name on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. You smug son of a bitch, she said. No preamble. Voice low. Steady. The calm before the bomb goes off. Morning. Tori. Early meeting? Cut the shit. Why is my key card deactivated? Why is building security telling me I don't have clearance? Because you don't. Effective 6 a.m. Langford Properties no longer owns 450 Park. Coal Capital does. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. You bought the building? Overnight? With what money? Ethan, this is fraud. I'll have the AG on you by lunch. Fraud requires deception. I bought it fair and square. Ask Derek. He's good with modern portfolio theory, right? Should have noticed the short position I took on your bonds last week. Collateralized by the building itself. When you missed that payment yesterday. Boom. Automatic default. Lender sold the asset to me at a discount. Another silence. Longer. I pictured her turning, looking at Derek. I could almost hear the gears grinding in her head, connecting the dots. The email, the concrete shutdown, the safety inspection, all of it leading here. Derek, she said, not to me, to him. Tell me he's lying. I heard Derek's voice, muffled. I don't know. The bond payment. The lender said it was an administrative error. I was in the meeting until 9 last night. An error? Tori's voice climbed. He set us up. He's been feeding us bad data. sabotaging the site. I didn't, Derek started. Shut up, Tori screamed. Then, back to me. You think this ends here? I'll sue. I'll bury you. I'll call every contact I have. You mean the ones who read the post this morning? The ones seeing hashtag Langford Collapse trend? Or the ones getting calls from SDNY Fraud Division about a missing $12 million from the pension fund? That stopped her cold. I heard her rustle, like she'd covered the phone. Muffled arguing. Derek's voice. Higher now. Pension fund? Tori, what pension fund? You said that money was for... I said, shut up. A slap, not metaphorical. I heard the crack. Then Derek, stunned. You hit me? You useless. You're why we're in this mess. Ethan fed you scraps. And you thought you were the chef. I hung up. Let her stew. Let Derek realize he'd been the patsy all along. I dressed, grabbed my coffee, and headed downstairs. By the time I reached the lobby, the locksmith was already there, changing the cylinders. Security stood by, impassive. They'd worked for me before Tori leased the top floors. Loyalty bought as loyalty kept. At 7:15, Elena walked in. She didn't look at the town car still idling outside, just handed me a tablet. It's live. Times front page. Langford Properties diverts pension funds to risky development. They named Derek's cousin. The Cayman Trail is clear. Good. Send a copy to every bondholder. And to the U.S. Attorney. Anonymously, but traceable if they dig. She nodded. Derek's lawyer is already calling. He wants a deal. Does he? Tell him Derek can have one. Immunity for testimony against Tori. Full cooperation. But he walks away from Langford Properties with nothing, not even a reference. And Tori? Let her twist. She'll try to flip Derek first. Watch. At 8 o'clock, Tori stormed into the lobby. No makeup. Hair mess. Derek trailing behind. A red mark blooming on his cheek. She ignored security. Marched straight to me. We're going upstairs. She said, not a request. No, we're not. I said, new ownership. New rules. You need an appointment. I own this company, not the building. And not for much longer. If the Times story holds up, which it will, Elena's good. Meticulous. Tori's eyes flicked to Elena. Hatred. Pure and simple. Then to Derek. You. Tell him. Tell him about the emails. The ones where he coached you on the projections. Derek swallowed. Tori. Ethan didn't coach me. He just sent that one email about the fort and then the safety stuff. I thought it was a joke. A joke? Tori whirled on him. You thought a hostile takeover was a joke? You thought losing our headquarters was a joke? You're fired. Get out. Derek didn't move. He looked at me. Mr. Cole is there. I mean, if I testify, would you? Tori laughed. A broken, bitter sound. You're asking him? After what he's done. I stepped forward. Into her space. Lowered my voice. What I've done. I showed you what happens when you laugh at the wrong person. You replaced me with a kid who couldn't find his ass with both hands. You stole from your employees. You lied to your investors. And now you're standing in my lobby, begging for scraps. Begging? She jabbed a finger at my chest. I'll ruin you. I'll tell them about the short position, the insider trading. Insider trading requires inside information. I got mine from your assistant. The one you abused. The one you underpaid. The one you just slapped in front of witnesses. I gestured to security. That's assault. By the way, on camera, her face paled. She turned to Derek. Tell them it's a lie. Tell them I didn't. I'm done. Tori, Derek said. His voice was quiet, but firm. I'm calling my lawyer, and I'm telling them everything. About the pension fund. About the Astoria deal. About how you told me to lie to the lenders. Tori stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Then she swung at him again. This time, security stepped in. 2 guards. Big guys. Gently but firmly restrained her. Ms. Langford, one said, you need to leave the premises. I'm not leaving. This is my building. Ethan, call them off. I shook my head. It hasn't been your building since sunrise, and it won't be your company by sundown. Derek, walk out with me. We'll talk. Derek hesitated, then fell into step beside me. Tori's scream followed us out onto the sidewalk. You'll regret this. Both of you. I'll have you disbarred. I'll have you indicted. The doors closed, cutting her off. Derek leaned against the glass, breathing hard. She hit me, he said, like he still couldn't believe it. She used you. I said, now she's done with you. Question is, what do you want to do about it? He looked at me, really looked. The entitlement was gone. In its place, fear and a flicker of something else. Survival instinct. I want to not go to jail. He said, I want to make her pay. For treating me like I was nothing. For making me the fall guy. Then here's the deal. You give SDNY everything. Emails, memos, recordings. Do you have recordings? He nodded slowly. She likes to document threats. For insurance, she said. I recorded a few conversations. On my phone. I don't know what I thought. Keep them. Give copies to Elena. She'll handle the immunity. In exchange, you walk. No charges. No record. But you never work in this industry again. You go back to wherever you came from. Connecticut, and you stay there. Derek swallowed. And if I don't, then Tori throws you under the bus. So hard they'll need a shovel to find your career. Your choice. He looked back at the building. At Tori, visible through the glass, screaming at security. Then he looked at me. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I'll do it. I clapped him on the shoulder. Smart choice. Elena will set up the meeting. Don't talk to anyone else. Not your parents. Not your cousin. No one. As he walked away, shoulders slumped. I felt a tap on my arm. Elena, Marcus is on line too. The bondholders are calling for a vote. They want Tori out by noon. Schedule it for 11. Give her just enough time to realize she's lost everything. And Elena, leak the recording. The one where she admits to diverting the pension funds. To the Post. Page 6 this time. Make it personal. She nodded, already typing. Derek's lawyer just confirmed. He's signing the proffer agreement this afternoon. Good. And Elena, one more thing. Sir, find out where Tori's hiding the offshore accounts. The ones not tied to the pension fund. I want every dollar she thought she'd stolen. She smiled, thin and sharp. Already on it. Her personal assistant, the one she treats like a doormat, she's been sending me screenshots for months. Tori's got a villa in St. Jean Cap Ferrat, under her sister's maiden name. St. Jean Cap Ferrat. I repeated. Expensive tastes. See if we can freeze it. Civil forfeiture. Let the court sort it out. I turned back to the building. Tori was still inside. A caged animal. By noon, she'd be out. By sunset, her name would be toxic. And by this time tomorrow, the only thing she'd own was a bench warrant and a one-way ticket to a federal courthouse. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Bondholders voted. Unanimous. Tori's out. Effective immediately. Security is escorting her from the premises now. I watched as the doors opened. Tori stumbled out. Hair wild. Mascara smeared. She saw me. Started forward. Then stopped. The fight drained out of her. She looked small. Ethan. She whispered. I didn't answer. Just watched as a black SUV pulled up. Not hers. Government plates. 2 agents stepped out. One showed a badge. Tori's knees buckled. They caught her, gently, and guided her into the back seat. As the SUV pulled away, Derek emerged from the subway entrance across the street. He saw the car, saw me, and understood. He nodded once, then disappeared into the crowd. Elena appeared at my elbow. SDNY just confirmed. Arrest warrant executed. Charges include wire fraud, pension fund embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. And the building? Officially transferred. You're the sole owner of record. The lobby's yours. The top floor's yours. Even her office. I looked up at the glass tower. My reflection stared back. Calm, focused, unmoved. Good. I said, now give me Marcus. I want to start interviewing new property managers. And Elena, draft a press release. Cole Capital committed to transparency and ethical development. Make sure Derek's name isn't mentioned. Let him disappear quietly. Yes, sir. I walked back inside, past security, into the elevator, pressed a button for the top floor. Tori's office. My office now. The doors opened. The view was spectacular. The city spread out below. Indifferent. Eternal. I sat behind the desk, pulled out my phone, texted Marcus one word. Clean. Then I leaned back, put my feet up on the desk, and watched the sun climb over Manhattan. Morning had come. And Tori? She'd finally learned the difference between laughing and being laughed at. Marcus walked in without knocking, tossed a manila envelope on the desk. "We've got a problem." I didn't take my feet off the desk. Plural. We've got several. Lead with the worst. Charles Whitmore. Marcus said the name like it left a bad taste. He's calling a special meeting of the real estate board tomorrow. Going public with claims that your acquisition of 450 Park was predatory and market manipulative. He's got 3 other major developers backing him. They want the AG to investigate, maybe claw back the deed. I finally looked at him. Charles Whitmore, my old mentor, the guy who taught me how to structure a leverage buyout and then tried to stiff me on the carry when I made him $50 million in 14. I'd walked away from his firm, but I'd never forgotten. Charles is upset because I didn't ask his permission. What else? The Times is running a follow-up, not just on Tori. On you, implied connections between the union slowdown and your short position. They're not saying it's illegal, but they're painting a picture. Cole Capital profits while Langford crumbles. Let them paint. It's true. I swung my feet down, opened the envelope. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Bank transfer records. Offshore. Where'd this come from? Elena found it, buried in Tori's personal server. She moved another $8 million 2 days before the arrest. Not the pension fund. Her private stash. Destination. A holding company in Malta. Beneficial owner listed as Charles Whitmore. I leaned back, smiled. Well, Charles wasn't just Tori's mentor. He was her partner in the fraud, not just the business, which means if we go after him, he goes down harder than she did. RICO Predicate Act. But Ethan, he's connected. Judges, politicians, the whole goddamn appellate division owes him favors. If we move on this, it's war. It's already war. He just fired the first shot. I tapped the paper. Get me everything on that Malta company. Who incorporated it? Who moves the money? Who signs the checks? And get Elena to trace the funds back to any U.S. bank. If a single dollar touched American soil, we've got jurisdiction. Marcus nodded, already pulling out his phone. What about the board meeting? We need a response. We give them one. A press release. Cole Capital welcomes transparency. Looks forward to addressing concerns. Keep it vague. Let Charles think we're on the defensive. Meanwhile, set up a meeting with Julian. I need the union to discover safety violations at Charles's biggest project, the condo tower on First Avenue. Ethan, not a slowdown, just a concern. Enough to trigger a DOT inspection. Delay his concrete pours by a week. Cost him a couple million. Let him feel what Tori felt. Marcus left. I called Elena. I need you to do something for me. Something off book. After this morning? I figured, she said. No hesitation. Good. Tori had a sister. Married named Castellano. Lives in St. Jean Cap Ferrat. Find out if Charles has visited in the last 6 months. Hotel records. Flight manifests. Credit card charges. And check if he owns any property nearby. Shell companies. Trusts. Anything. On it. But if Charles is involved with Tori's offshore accounts, why now? Why move the money 2 days before she got arrested? Because he knew she was going down. He was cleaning house. Probably told her to move the cash. Then planned to claim it was all hers. Distance himself. Classic Whitmore. I paused. One more thing. Derek Pierce. Where is he? In a safe house in White Plains. His lawyer's negotiating the final immunity deal. SDNY wants him to testify against Tory first, then Charles. But Derek's getting cold feet. He thinks if Charles goes down, his family's in the crosshairs. His cousin was the bagman for the Astoria deal. Convince him otherwise. Tell him if he flips on Charles. We protect the cousin. Limited immunity. Non-prosecution agreement. Make it sound like a favor. Because it is, to us. Elena side, you're playing with fire. If Charles finds out we're turning Derek, he won't. Not until it's too late. Set up a meeting with Derek. Tonight, somewhere quiet. I'll handle the rest. I hung up, then dialed Julian. He answered on the first ring. Background noise of construction site. Jackhammers. Shouting. Cole, heard you cleaned house. House is clean. Now I'm looking at the foundation. Charles Whitmore. You know his First Avenue project? The glass stick? Yeah, shoddy work. My guy's been bitching about the rebar spacing for weeks. Why? I need an inspector to notice those complaints. Tomorrow morning, right before Charles's big board meeting. Julian laughed. You want me to grease a palm at buildings? That'll cost you. Double the last rate. Done. And Julian? Make sure the inspector mentions potential structural instability. Not a shutdown. Just concern. Enough to spook his lenders. Consider it done. But you owe me. Cole. Big. I pay my debts. Unlike Charles. By noon, Marcus was back. Malta Company is a ghost. Incorporated by a law firm in Valletta that specializes in privacy solutions. But Elena found the thread. One wire transfer. $250. 000. From a Charles Whitmore Foundation account to that law firm. 6 months ago. Right after Tory bought the Astoria land. Foundation. I repeated. Clever. Use a charity to move dirty money. Tax deductible. 2. Get me the foundation's 990 forms. And subpoena the law firm's records. We don't need the Maltese government's help if we can prove the money came from here. Subpoena requires a judge. Charles as judges. Then we find one he doesn't have. Or we make a new one. Call Henderson at the Southern District. He owes me for the tip on the hedge fund insider trading case last year. He'll sign the subpoena if we give him enough dirt on Charles. Marcus left again. I spent the afternoon on the phone. Lenders, lawyers. A reporter at the Post-Ide helped out of a libel suit once. Planting seeds. Buy for. The story was shifting. Hashtag Whitmore weakness started trending. Someone leaked that Charles's First Avenue project was under voluntary review by the Department of Buildings. Another someone, Elena, leaked that the review was triggered by a whistleblower complaint regarding structural steel. At 6, I met Derek in a garage in Long Island City. Nondescript sedan, tinted windows. He looked like he hadn't slept since yesterday. Dark circles, trembling hands. Mr. Cole, he said, voice hoarse. I don't know if I can do this. Sit down. Derek. I slid into the back seat across from him. You're not doing it. You're surviving it. There's a difference. Charles Whitmore. My lawyer says he's untouchable. That if I testify against him, I'll be disbarred, bankrupt, maybe worse. Your lawyer's wrong. Charles isn't untouchable. He's just untouched. Until now. I handed him a folder. This is your insurance policy. Proof that Charles directed Tory to move the pension funds. Recordings, emails, bank records, all linking him to the Malta account. Derek flipped through it, eyes widening. How did you? Doesn't matter. What matters is this. You give this to SDNY. You walk away clean. Immunity for you. Limited immunity for your cousin. In exchange, you tell them everything. About Charles. About Tory. About the Astoria kickback. Every last thing. He looked up. Desperate. And if I don't, then Charles throws you to the wolves. He'll claim you acted alone. That Tory was his unwitting pawn. You'll spend the next decade in Otisville. And your cousin will be the star witness against you. Choose. Derek swallowed hard. Looked at the folder. Then at me. You'll protect my cousin? Non-prosecution agreement. Signed by the U.S. Attorney. He walks. You walk. Charles goes to prison. He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. But I want something in writing from you that you won't come after me later, after Charles is gone. You have my word. And in this town, that's worth more than a contract. I held out my hand. He hesitated, then shook it. Weak grip, but committed. Elena will set up the proffer session for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Be ready. I watched him leave, shoulders hunched, walking like a man headed to the gallows. Maybe he was, but at least he'd have a parachute. Back at the office, Marcus was waiting. Henderson signed the subpoena. We're raiding the Foundation's offices at 8 a.m. And Charles just canceled the board meeting. Called it in light of ongoing inquiries. Inquiries he started. I said, now he's running scared. Good. Keep the pressure on. Leak the Malta connection to the Times. Not the evidence, just the allegation. Let them chase it. Charles will spend the next 24 hours trying to plug the holes in his Swiss cheese defense. And Tori? Marcus asked. She's singing like a bird. Her lawyer's already talking plea deal. 5 years. Maybe less if she gives up Charles. Let her sing. But make sure SDNY knows she's a co-conspirator, not a victim. We want Charles to feel the walls closing in from all sides. Tori from one side, Derek from another, the feds from a third. And me? I'll be the floor giving out beneath him. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice. Chris, familiar. Ethan, it's Sarah Whitmore, Charles's wife. Interesting. The wife, calling me directly. Mrs. Whitmore, to what do I owe the pleasure? Stay away from my husband. Whatever game you're playing. End it, or I promise you, the resources we have to destroy, you will make Tori Langford look like a kindergarten teacher. Threats. Sarah? Really? I expected better from the Whitmore household. Tell Charles this. The building's mine. The evidence is real. And the only way out is through me. He can cooperate. Or he can join Tori in a cell. Your choice. I hung up before she could reply. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Sarah Whitmore? Trying to intimidate me. Won't work. I stood, walked to window. The city lights blurred. Call Julian. Tell him to move up the inspection on First Avenue. Make it tonight. I want Charles awake all night worrying about his precious tower. You're enjoying this too much. I'm correcting a mistake. Charles Whitmore taught me everything I know, including how to burn the teacher when he tries to cheat the student. I turned back to Marcus. One more thing. Draft a letter to the Langford Properties Board. Resignation effective immediately. And add a clause. All outstanding legal fees and settlements related to prior management's misconduct to be borne solely by Victoria Langford and her affiliates. Let her pay for her own funeral. Marcus left, shaking his head. I sat back down, opened my laptop. An email from Elena. Subject, Castellano connection. Attached, flight records. Charles Whitmore, JFK to Nice. For trips in the last year. Hotel, Grand Hotel du Cap Ferrat. Paid for by the Charles Whitmore Foundation. And a property deed, Villa Soleil. Owned by a trust bearing Tori sister's initials. Funded by transfers from the Malta Company. The walls weren't just closing in on Charles. They were collapsing. And I was the one holding the sledgehammer. My phone rang again. This time, Tori's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Ethan, she whispered, voice raw, broken. It's over. Isn't it? For you? Yes. For Charles? Starting now. He set me up. He told me to move the money. Said it was standard asset protection. I didn't know. it was his. You knew. Tori, you just didn't care. Until it was your neck in the noose. She was quiet. Then, will you tell them? About Charles? About the villa? Already done. Sleep tight. Tori, your trial starts Monday. I ended the call. Outside, a siren wailed. Heading toward Midtown. Toward Charles Whitmore's penthouse. Maybe. Or his building site. Didn't matter. The trap was sprung. The load-bearing walls were cracking. And when they fell, Charles would learn what it meant to bet against Ethan Cole. I leaned back, closed my eyes. Tomorrow, the real work began. Owning the building was easy. Owning the fallout, that was the trick. But I was ready. I'd been ready since the day Tori laughed. Now, let her watch Charles burn. And then, we'd see who was laughing next. Marcus burst in without knocking, slamming the door behind him. They're raiding Charles's office right now. SDNY, FBI, the works. But that's not the headline. I didn't look up from the deposition transcript Elena had just dropped. Derek's signature on the bottom. Clean. Final. Then lead with the headline. Marcus, I'm tired of guessing. Sarah Whitmore called the Journal. On the record, said Charles had nothing to hide, and that this is a vendetta by a disgruntled former protege. She named you, Ethan, by name, accused you of fabricating evidence to destroy her husband. I finally looked up, smiled. Sarah's panicking. When the wife goes public, the husband's already sunk. What else? The First Avenue site? Concrete trucks rolled in at midnight. Charles paid triple to bypass the union hold. Pour the foundation anyway. Now buildings are citing him for willful disregard of a stop work order. Fine start at $50,000 a day. Make sure the Post gets the photo of the poor. Under the cover of darkness. Whitmore cuts corners while Rome burns. I toss the transcript aside. Derek signed the proffer. SDNY is drafting the immunity order, but his lawyers demanding additional protections for the cousin. They're spooked about Charles's connections. Tell them the protections are already in the draft. Section 4. Subsection B. Non-prosecution for any and all activities related to the Astoria land acquisition. Make sure it's ironclad. We need Derek's testimony clean. Marcus nodded. Already typing. Charles's arraignment is set for Thursday. Bail hearing Friday. His lawyer's talking about a medical condition to justify release. Denied. Sarah's too connected. She'll have a private jet fueled and ready before the gavel drops. Get Henderson to oppose it. Cite flight risk and obstruction of justice. Use the Malta transfers as evidence he's got the means to disappear. My phone buzzed. Elena? Sir. Tori took a plea. 5 years. No parole. Full cooperation. She's giving up Charles. The villa. The whole network. SDNY is filing the indictment this afternoon. Good. Make sure the filing mentions conspiracy to defraud multiple federally insured pension funds. I want Charles's bail hearing to smell like a federal penitentiary. Already done. But there's a wrinkle. Charles's lawyer is subpoenaing Derek's employment records from Langford, trying to paint him as a disgruntled employee with a vendetta. They're going to claim Derek fabricated the recordings. They can try. Get Elena to authenticate the metadata on the recordings. Timestamps, device IDs, the works, and have Derek's lawyer preemptively file a motion to exclude any character evidence about Derek's performance at Langford. We keep the focus on Charles's actions, not Derek's resume. I hung up, then dialed Julian. Concrete poured? Like clockwork. Charles's guys worked through the night, cost him a fortune in overtime, and expedited permits. Buildings just hit him with the fine. $100,000. Day one. Double it. Call in a favor with the commissioner. Say the poor compromise adjacent utilities. Gas line anomaly. Shut down the block for emergency inspection. Julian chuckled. You don't quit, do you? Charles is going to owe the city more in fines than the building's worth. Exactly. Keep the pressure on. I want him spending more on lawyers and penalties than he ever made on the project. By noon, the news hit. Hashtag Whitmore indicted trended nationwide. Charles Whitmore, real estate titan, arrested at his Park Avenue apartment, let out in handcuffs. Sarah stood on the steps, tearful, reading a statement about political persecution. The cameras loved it. I didn't. I wanted her silent. Scared. Marcus came back in. Bail denied. Judge cited overwhelming evidence of flight risk. Charles is remanded to Metropolitan Correctional Center pending trial. Sarah's lawyering up with the big guns. Skadden, Sullivan, Cromwell. They're already talking appeal. Appeal takes months. By then, The trial's over and Charles is wearing orange. What about the Malta company? Elena got the subpoena records. The law firm in Valletta folded faster than a cheap suit. Turns out Charles' charitable foundation was a pass-through for at least 4 offshore entities. Total unreported income, $62 million. IRS is launching a parallel investigation. $62 million. I repeated, enough to buy a small country or a very large yacht. Get the IRS to freeze the foundation's U.S. assets, bank accounts, real estate, the works, and notify the Maltese authorities. Let them deal with their end. Ethan, this is RICO now. Entreprise corruption, guai fraude, tax evasion. Charles isn't just going to jail. He's losing everything. Good. That's the point. I stood, walked to the window. The city looked the same, but underneath, the ground was shifting. Set up a press conference. Tomorrow morning, I want to address the ongoing inquiries personally. Keep it brief. Cole Capital supports transparency and accountability. We welcome the SDNY's investigation. Let Sarah twist in the wind. You're going public? That's risky. Draws a target on your back. The target's already there. Might as well aim it where I want. And Marcus? Invite the Times, the Post, CNBC, everyone. Let Charles see me standing in his shadow. Unshaken. He left. I called Elena. Status on the villa? French authorities froze the assets this morning. Tory sister's cooperating. She's cutting a deal to avoid charges. She's providing bank records showing Charles funded the purchase through a series of shell companies. SDNY is preparing an MLAT request to seize the property. MLAT, I muttered, Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, the international version of a search warrant. How long? 6 to 8 weeks. Normally, but with the indictment, they're expediting. Maybe 2 weeks. Sarah's fighting it, but her lawyers are hitting a wall. The French don't like tax cheats. Let Sarah fight. Every dollar she spends on legal fees is one less for Charles's defense. I paused. Derek testified for 4 hours this afternoon. SDNY says he was credible and compelling. Charles's lawyers tried to rattle him on cross, but Derek stuck to the script. The recordings held up. Metadata matched. Case is solidifying. Good. One more thing. Sarah's press statement. Leak a rebuttal to the Journal. But attributed to a source close to the investigation. Say Sarah's statement is under review for potential obstruction of justice. Let her wonder if she's next. Elena Wislid, you're not leaving her any rope. Are you? She used it to hang Charles. I'm just making sure the knot's tight. I hung up, then dialed the number for the U.S. Attorney's Office. Henderson answered directly. Ethan, heard you're enjoying the show. Immensely. Just calling to thank you for the expedited subpoenas. And to let you know, Sarah Whitmore's press statement is materially false. She claimed Charles had no involvement in the Malta transfers. We have proof otherwise. Thought you'd want to know before she doubles down. Henderson was quiet for a beat. Appreciate the heads up. We'll look into it. Sarah's skating close to the edge. One more misstep, and she's joining him. Looking forward to it. I ended the call. The rest of the day was a blur of calls. Emails. Strategy sessions. By evening, the narrative had shifted. Charles wasn't a titan. He was a thief. Sarah wasn't a grieving wife. She was an accomplice. And me, I was the guy who cleaned up the mess. The press conference was set. The stage was built. At 8 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice. Slurred. Desperate. Ethan, it's Sarah. I didn't speak. Let her fill the silence. Please. Stop. You've won. Charles is finished. Just leave me out of it. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. You knew. Sarah, you signed the foundation's tax returns. You approved the transfers. You called the Giornalto lie for him. You're not a bystander. You're a co-conspirator. I'll give you everything. The accounts, the properties, the names. Just don't indict me. Please. I have children. So did the pensioners Charles stole from. Their children won't have college funds. Their retirements are ruined. You want mercy? Show it to them. I hung up. She called back 3 times. I didn't answer. Marcus texted. Sarah's lawyer just requested a pre-indictment proffer session. She's flipping. I replied, let her, but make sure SDNY knows she's only talking to save herself. No deals until she gives up Charles completely. At midnight, I stood by the window again. The city was quiet. Too quiet. The calm before the storm. Tomorrow, I'd face the cameras. Tomorrow, Charles would realize his empire was ash. And tomorrow, Sarah would learn that in this game, there are no safe harbors. My phone buzzed one last time. Elena, French authorities just seized Villa Soleil. Sarah's statement to the Journal has been retracted. She's issuing a clarification, admitting she may have been mistaken about Charles's involvement. I smiled. Type back. Good. Now let her sweat. And Elena, start drafting the civil forfeiture complaints. I want every asset Charles ever touched frozen by Friday. The response was immediate. On it. Sleep tight. Boss, tomorrow's going to be a circus. I turned off the phone. Circus? No, this was a funeral, and I was the undertaker. Marcus didn't bother with good mornings, just dropped a thick envelope on my desk and exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the press conference. It's done. Civil forfeiture finalized this morning. The villas, the yachts, the private jets, all seized. The foundations dissolved. IRS is carving up the $62 million as we speak. I flipped the envelope open. Inside, a single sheet of vellum, the official stamp of the Southern District of New York. United States v. Whitmore, et al. Dismissal of all civil claims against Coal Capital. No findings of wrongdoing. Clean exit. And Charles? I asked, even though I already knew. Pleaded guilty to 12 counts. Guide fraude, conspiracy, tax evasion, RICO predicate acts. Sentence recommendation, 22 years. Sarah got 18 months for misprision of felony and obstruction. She's cooperating on the Malta end. Derek's immunity is ironclad. SDNY signed off yesterday. He's moving to Boise. New name, new life, Boise. I repeated. Cold, quiet, appropriate. I tossed the sheet back onto the pile. What about the building? 450 Park is fully de-risked. Lenders are lining up to refinance. We could flip it tomorrow for a 40% premium. Or hold it. Either way, it's ours free and clear. Hold it, I said. For now, I want Tori to see it every morning from her bus stop on Rikers. Small satisfaction. But mine, Marcus nodded, then hesitated. There's something else. Elena found the last account. The one Tori didn't list in the asset declarations, hidden in a trust under her mother's maiden name. Zurich, roughly $4 million. $4 million? I said, not much, compared to Charles's haul, but enough to start over. I paused. Freeze it, all of it, then notify the court. Let the judge decide where it goes. Pensioners first, then the IRS, then the state. Not a dime to Tori. Already done. Swiss authorities complied within hours. Guess even they don't like thieves. Marcus stood, adjusting his cufflinks. So, that's it. Empire toppled. Assets recovered. Bad guys in cages. You got what you wanted. I looked at him. Did I? He didn't answer. Just gave me a long look. The kind that said he'd seen this part coming before I had. Then he left, pulling the door shut behind him. I sat there for a while. The silence in the office was different now. Not the tense quiet before a strike, but the hollow echo after the last shot's been fired. My phone stayed dark. No calls from Henderson. No leaks from Elena. No threats from Sarah's new legal team. Just the occasional hum of the HVAC and the distant thump of a delivery truck hitting a pothole on Park Avenue. At 10, Elena knocked and entered without waiting. She looked tired but satisfied, the look of someone who'd finished a marathon and didn't mind the blisters. Zurich accounts frozen. Court's appointing a receiver. Tori's lawyers screaming double jeopardy, but won't stick civil forfeiture. Not criminal. She's officially broke. And the pensioners? First distribution goes out next month. 78 cents on the dollar. Not whole. but better than zero. The union's dropping the wrongful death suit against Langford's estate. No assets left to chase. Julian says thanks for the bonus. He's buying new rigs for the apprentices. I nodded. Good. Anything else? She hesitated. Derek called. From Boise. He's okay. Working at a hardware store. Says he sleeps through the night now. Wanted me to thank you for keeping your word. Tell him not to thank me. Tell him to keep his head down and never touch a spreadsheet again. I paused. And Elena, you did good. Better than good. Marcus says you're ready for a promotion. VP of Finance. Title, raise, equity, all of it. Think about it. She blinked, then composed herself. I'll think about it. But Ethan, there's something you should see. She slid a thin folder across the desk. Tori's sister, the one in France. She's talking to a reporter at Vanity Fair, doing a tell-all. My sister, the thief. It's not flattering. And she mentions you. Says you were the architect of the takedown, motivated by personal vengeance, not justice. I opened the folder. A draft of the article. Purple prose about the cold-eyed financier who orchestrated a modern-day Greek tragedy. I skimmed it, then tossed it back. Let her talk. Publicity won't change the facts. And it won't bring back the money she helped Charles hide. It might hurt the firm's reputation. Clients get squeamish about vengeful leadership, then remind them that vengeful leadership is why they still have a pension fund. And Elena leaked the counter-narrative. Quietly, to the FT, Cold Capital Forensic Team recovers millions in fraudulent transfers. Let the facts speak louder than Tori's sister. She nodded, taking the folder. Anything else? Yeah, take the rest of the day off. And tell Marcus I don't want to see him until Monday. I need the noise to stop. She left. I was alone again. I stood, walked to the window. The sun was high now, glinting off the glass of 450 Park. My building, my prize. Below, the sidewalk teemed with people, ambition incarnate, rushing to meetings, chasing deals, stepping on each other to get ahead. I used to be one of them. Still was, I guess, but the hunger felt different now. Duller, like eating after you've already stuffed yourself sick. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But habit won. I answered. Ethan, Tori's voice. Raspy, thin, stripped of all its old arrogance. It's me. I didn't say anything. Just listened to the static. The faint clang of a prison phone in the background. I saw the news. About the Zurich account. They took it all. Even the money I saved for. Never mind. It doesn't matter. A pause, filled with the sound of her breathing. I just wanted to say, you were right. About everything. I was greedy. Stupid. I thought I could play your game better than you. I couldn't. Still, I stayed silent. Sarah called me last night. From the detention center. She's terrified. Keeps saying she didn't know. But she did. We all did. We just didn't care. Until it was too late. Another pause. Do you ever think about it? What we had before all this? I closed my eyes. For a second, I was back in that bar in '09. Whiskey burning my throat. Her eyes bright with the same hunger I felt. Sometimes. I said finally, but not often. I figured. You never were one for nostalgia. She laughed. A dry, broken sound. Well, I guess this is goodbye. For real this time. Tell Elena. Tell her I'm sorry. For slapping her. For everything. I'll tell her. And Ethan, thank you for not letting me get away with it, as much as it hurts. I needed to fall. Needed to learn. She paused again. Longer this time. You won. Happy? I looked at the building. My reflection in the glass. Calm. Untouched. Empty. Happiness is for people who stop. Tori, I'm just getting started. I ended the call. Didn't wait for her reply. I stood there for a long time, phone in my hand. The city sprawled below me. Marcus was right. I got what I wanted. The building, the revenge, the vindication. So, why did it feel like I just finished a meal that left me hungrier than before? My desk phone rang. Internal line. Ellen, sir? The Financial Times sits on line 2. They want to comment on the asset recovery. And Marcus says there's a new opportunity. Distressed real estate fund in Miami. High yield, high risk. He thinks you'll want to see the prospectus. I looked at the receiver, then at the window, then at the empty chair across from my desk. The one Tori used to sit in. The one Derek had occupied for 5 minutes. The one that now belonged to no one. Put the F on hold. I said, and tell Marcus to send the Miami files. But Elena, one more thing. Sir, schedule a meeting with the building manager. I want to tour the mechanical rooms. Check the load-bearing walls. Make sure the foundation's solid. Can't own a skyscraper if the basement's rotting. Yes, sir. I hung up, turned back to the window. The sun was starting its slow descent, casting long shadows across the avenues. Somewhere, Charles was counting ceiling tiles in a cell. Sarah was lawyering up for round 2. Tori was learning what it meant to be nobody. And Derek? Derek was probably stocking shelves in Boise, praying he'd never hear the name Langford or Whitmore again. I had the building. I had the win. I had the silence. And maybe that was enough. For now. But as I turned away from the window, my reflection caught the light just right, cold, sharp, alone. And I realized the truth Tori had missed. The one Charles never understood. The one Derek was lucky to escape. Winning isn't the prize. It's the addiction. And I just scored my next fix. I picked up the phone, dialed Marcus, send the Miami files. And Elena, draft a memo. Coal Capital. Expansion Strategy 2025. We're not done. Not even close. I ended the call, sat down, and opened my laptop. The screen glowed. The cursor blinked. Waiting. Just like the city. Just like me. Morning had come and gone. But the hunt? The hunt never ended.